Welcome back to another episode of Have You Seen It? As you can see, it's a little different today. We just got me and Jared. Dan and Jessica are out on vacation. So I'm sure they might be skiing in the Alps right now. I don't know.
Yeah, skiing.
Or hiking or some other things.
They were doing some rock climbing maybe.
Yeah, or maybe they're just sitting on a train. Yeah. They said they had a train day. Yeah. So they're probably just on a train today. But anyway, so yeah, it's just going to be us. And the other different thing is we're going to actually review 2 movies.
We got a double feature today.
Double feature.
Very exciting.
Yep. So we're going to be reviewing Wicked, as well as Gladiator 2, also known as...
Gladiator 2?
No. Glicked. I was looking for Glicked there.
Yeah, Glicked. As you can see, we've got our poster in the back.
Yes, yeah. That's a great poster. I'm glad you found that.
Yes, the Glicked series of films.
Which is funny because they're just trying to recreate the Barbenheimer thing. And I feel like it was kind of a failure. I don't know.
Not as big of a deal.
Yeah, probably. Not as big of a deal. Because it's got to be natural. You can't just copy these things. I don't know who made that idea. I don't know. It's probably marketing from one of the movies.
Right. I mean, it's the movie studios, let's be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to review both those movies. And we're also going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to do our just kind of like we're not going to do shout outs. We're just going to do catch up. What have we been watching? So we're going to also throw in some trivia as usual and then do our star ratings at the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, Jared, what have you been watching lately?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit before this, but I've been marathoning the Harry Potter films, which has been fun. So started from number 1 again. They're really great Christmas movies. I know because they used to do like holiday Christmas marathons. I'm sure they still do it.
No, we looked this up. I can't remember. I don't know if they still do the Harry Potters or not, but I remember we thought the same thing around Thanksgiving, and I think they maybe don't do it.
Yeah.
I
know. They used to.
Yeah, they used to.
So for me, it's always been like a big Christmas tradition to try and watch at least one of them, and it's been fun just doing them all in order for the first time in like a few years.
Okay.
So got through number 3, so finished with
Yeah, so
Prisoner of Azkaban, which is one of my favorites, I think.
Yeah, you like that because it's Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah,
so he
was one of my favorite directors.
Yeah, so he really stepped it up on the darkness in that one, I feel like, which is cool. Yeah, we're also rewatching the Harry Potters. Maddie, I should say, and I are rewatching the Harry Potters because we do that every year. And we do it usually around Christmas time because she kind of says they're Christmas movies too, which is funny because there's always a Christmas scene, but it's like...
I mean, each of them is like the full year, right? But you get Christmas in the middle.
But for some reason, you think of Christmas. Yeah, no, you do. It's just kind of cozy too.
Yeah, they're fun.
Halloween, fall, Christmas, that era. So we're rewatching those, and we just finished the 3rd one as well. Yeah. So excited for the 4th one.
Yeah. Goblet.
Yeah.
Goblet of Fire.
That one is a good one. I like that was my favorite book when it came out, and then Deathly Hallows, once that came out, I'm like, okay, that's my favorite now. So, but
it is fun to watch them as they get further into the books. I feel like the movies are less and less impactful. They can't fit as much into the movies.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
but it's fun to see. I think my favorite part about the Harry Potter series is just to see the influence that a director has on the film because you have so many different directors coming in throughout the series. Yeah, and it's just fun to see them take their own unique spins on the source material.
Did you see the anniversary that came out a couple years ago? Oh, it's really good on HBO. They all get back together and they go through each movie and they talk about, this director was really good when he did that. It was pretty cool.
That's cool. It's the cast and crew.
The cast and crew. Yeah, some of the directors were not all of them, but some of the directors were there. But mainly just the cast. But it was really cool. Yeah, it's on HBO. It's an hour and a half.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's good. What else? Anything else you've been watching?
The only other thing I wanted to talk about is I watched this Cary Grant film from the 1940s called The Bishop's Wife. Okay. Also a very good Christmas movie. Definitely a movie of its time, very slow paced, and it's definitely a 40s film, but it's very Christmassy and fun. And Cary Grant plays an angel in the film, and I won't give away too much more beyond that, but he he did a really well job of playing that character in the movie, and they just had a lot of fun practical effects, which kind of ties into some of what I want to talk about today. With some of the films
with Gladiator, right?
Gladiator, yeah, definitely Gladiator. But it was just fun to see some 1940s special effects done well, and if you're looking for a good Christmas movie, definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't heard of that. It is interesting to watch some of those old movies. Yeah. and I am usually astounded by like all the effects and how good they are, and just the camera work. I feel like the camera work was so. They're so much more intricate back then, and I mean there are directors that still do that, but it's not every film. And I feel like it's like was every film back then was like that. Cool. Okay, you got some things. So for me, I got some interesting ones. So we just recently rewatched The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh gosh, you should see that one. So
I know you've mentioned it a couple times.
I mentioned it because I mentioned In Bruges is like my second favorite movie.
Same director, right?
Same director, same cast too. So it's got Colin Farrell and Mad-Eye Moody, who I always forget his name.
Right.
What is that guy's
I don't know his name.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so it's actually the same two characters as in Bruges.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just, if, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's just like, it's a dark comedy. So it's not for everybody. But I feel like it's kind of like an approachable dark comedy. I don't know. Yeah. It gets pretty serious. It's basically the premise is that there's these, it's like I forget, we looked up like the 1920s or something like that. I can't remember, but maybe even earlier than that. Actually, I think it was maybe earlier than that. But there's these two friends who live on this island off of Ireland, just very small island. Like everybody knows everybody, just very like their life is just so routine and mundane and nothing going on. And basically, the one guy just decides that he doesn't want to be friends with this other guy anymore because he's too boring and dumb and dull. And he's like, I don't enjoy talking to you anymore, so I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And then Colin Farrell's like, well, what the heck? Like, you can't just do that. Like, you can't just not be my friend. So it's literally the whole thing is like, Colin Farrell like trying to be like, why don't you want to be my friend? And the other guy gets to the point.
Trying to become friends again with him.
Yeah, and the guy is basically gets to the point where he's like, if you don't stop talking to me, I'm going to cut off my finger.
Oh, no.
My fingers. And so I won't tell you how that plays out, but it goes down that road a little further than you might think. Yeah. And basically his idea is he wants more time to play his violin because he's like, I'm wasting my life. I want to play this violin and you are wasting my life.
He wants time to practice.
Yeah. So it's so interesting, but it has a lot of commentary about just like the mundaneness of life and like, also like being an artist and like how much time you should spend on your art. And sometimes you're spending too much time and now you don't have, relationships, things like that. Anyway, very cool, very interesting, dark, and eerie and like kind of sad, but it's a really good film. The other one that I watched recently, we watched Carry On, which is new on Netflix.
Haven't heard of it.
It's this, basically this guy is, he's like a TSA agent at the airport. And, I'm blank. I'm so bad at names sometimes. Who's the guy in Horrible Bosses and like the funny guy?
Jason Bateman?
Yeah, Jason Bateman. So Jason Bateman's like the bad guy. He's like just kind of like a criminal or whatever. And he's basically has a guy have an earpiece and he's like trying to tell him like, you got to let this thing through the TSA check-in. Otherwise I'm going to kill your wife, basically. So it plays out. It's just kind of this like tense, like thriller of like, oh, is he going to try to stop him from killing his wife, or is he going to let it through? And then he lets it through and he's like, okay, what is he going to do now? It was actually pretty good.
It's like a suspense thriller.
Yeah, just a suspense thriller. And
Is it new?
It's new. I literally just came out and it's like supposed to be it's supposed to be like on Christmas Eve. So I think they're kind of trying to play that up, but it's not that big of a part of the movie.
Set as a Christmas movie.
Yeah, but it's in California, so there's no snow or anything.
Typical Hollywood Christmas movie.
Yeah, but it was better than I thought. The acting was pretty solid. There were some like scenes where it took it too far with some CGI and some like action stuff. I was like, okay, I didn't need that. Yeah. But 90% of it was pretty good, pretty solid. So I'd recommend it.
Nice.
Nothing amazing, but it was fun.
Yeah. But a fun watch.
Yeah. Last thing, I'll be quick with this one, but the last thing I told you, I was reading The Ring. Yeah. Which is a Japanese book. It was basically,
which became the movie.
So it's crazy. It was a Japanese book that became a Japanese film.
Movie. Right.
No, actually, it became a Japanese TV for movie for TV, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then that had a lot of success, so they made a really good film.
Right.
And then that's the film that is like very iconic. Like that's the one that then the American version was based off of.
Gotcha.
But actually, before the American version, there was a Korean version based off of it because in Korea,
there's that many versions.
Well, there is a lot. I went to a list. It was like, what order to watch the 14 Ring films.
It's like there's 14.
A lot of them are like the same story, but then there's sequels and and all this and prequels and.
So how's the book?
So the book is cool. It's more of a mystery. It is horror, but it's more of a mystery horror, and it has psychological. I can't remember if the American Ring has like psychological telepathy and things like that in it. Not
a ton,
really.
Not really.
There's more of that in the book, which also what I'm getting to is I watched the Japanese version of this. Yeah. And it's really good.
Yeah.
I really liked it. They got really good camera work. I kind of like...
And this is the one the American film was based on.
Yeah. It has more of the mystery and the telepathy and kind of like that side of things in it, which I was kind of into. And it's creepy. I would say it's more creepy where the American version is like jump scary a little bit.
Right.
This one's more creepy.
Yeah.
So it's like it kind of like gradually got scarier. So like this one's in the middle of scariness, but I really appreciate it.
You like that it was creepy.
Yeah, it was more creepy and it was really good. Yeah, I really liked it. So I actually gave it a 4.5, which is I was surprised.
Yeah, that's pretty good knowing your rating scale.
I really liked it.
Nice,
so,
man.
Definitely something to check out.
Yeah.
But cool.
Especially like I love when movies are actually scary. That's always the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, as editors, like a lot of the American horror movies, you can see the jump scares coming a mile away usually, and it's like if a movie genuinely terrifies me, like it's fun to watch.
Yeah. The other thing that was interesting was, in the movie that plays all the random scenes that happen. In the book, there's like 5 scenes, and they're kind of like not that creepy. They're kind of weird. And then in the Japanese movie, they add some different ones, but there's still not that many, and they're kind of weird. And then in the American one, there's like 12 to 18, and they're just like, what the hell are we watching? Just totally ramped it up. And I'm like, okay, they just went for it. But anyway, so that was cool.
Cool.
But yeah, that's kind of what we're watching. What's
should we talk about our double feature films?
Yeah, well, we're
gonna some trivia maybe.
Go into some trivia. We're gonna start with Wicked, because there's a little bit more spoiler stuff with Gladiator 2. So I figure that might be better to start with Wicked.
Yeah, so I can start off with I've got a trivia question. For Wicked. So my trivia question is: what film was director John Chu inspired by for the look of Oz? Basically, the sets they built for the film. And this film that he was inspired by was in turn inspired by the original Wizard of Oz.
Makes sense.
So I've got A, Oz the Great and Powerful, B, The Truman Show, C, Pleasantville, or D, Pearl.
Oh, gosh.
Have you seen any of those?
Yes, I have. I think I've seen all of them. So it was the Oz, what is it? The
Oz the Great and Powerful.
Okay, that was just James Franco. Is that one? Yep.
The Truman Show.
Truman Show, great movie.
Pleasantville,
yep. Also good movie. Pearl.
Have you seen Pearl?
I actually haven't seen Pearl. No, I haven't seen Pearl.
Okay, yeah.
But I know what it is. I'm going to, here's my brain. I'm going to guess Pearl because that's the one that stands out the most. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Pearl.
Okay, you were close.
Okay.
It was the other P. Pleasantville.
Okay. Yeah.
So Pleasantville, a lot of the film in Pleasantville was like inspired by Wizard of Oz going from black and white to color. And
right.
They did a lot of that in that film.
That makes sense.
It's been a long time since I watched that movie, but I can definitely see that. So he was very inspired by the look of Pleasantville, and
that makes sense.
And used that as inspiration.
Okay.
Going into like the set production design and all that.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. It's probably been 5 years since I watched it, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it has really cool special effects. And the editing was really good. I teach an editing class when I was mentioned that film.
Oh, really?
Just as far as like the editing and the use of color, especially in the film, is really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Anyways, that's a fun one. Did you have a second one?
I've got a bonus question. This one doesn't have multiple choice.
Okay, gosh.
So good luck.
Yeah.
I've got the name of the Wicked Witch Elphaba was created by taking the phonetic pronunciation of whose initials?
The phonetic pronunciation of somebody's initials. So, what does that even mean? I'm trying to wrap my head around it. The phonetic pronunciation.
So, if you were to pronounce someone's initials, it would sound like Elphaba.
How so? I don't know.
It's actually the author of the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, who is it?
L. Frank Baum.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Okay. LFB.
LFB.
Yeah,
okay,
so that's how they got her name.
The third, the middle initial is what I was missing there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually the original author. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. So
yeah, that's kind of
why I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's dive into our review for Wicked. Give a little synopsis here. Misunderstood because of her green skin, a young woman named Elphaba forges an unlikely but profound friendship with Glinda, a student with an unflinching desire for popularity. Following an encounter with the Wizard of Oz, their relationship soon reaches a crossroad as their lives begin to take very different paths. Okay, interesting. And so we should say this is directed by John Chu, as you already mentioned. Yep. What else has he done?
In the Heights, which is another musical film.
Oh, Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians.
I recognize that one. Step Up 2.
Step Up 2.
Now you've seen it too, also.
Hey, I've seen that movie.
Step Up 3, G.I. Joe.
So he's got a long list.
Okay,
of credits.
interesting. Yeah, but more like kind of like popular, mainstream type of things.
Yeah, and he's done like some other musicals.
Gotcha, other musicals. And then Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo?
Yep.
Is that you?
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Are the two main characters. There's some other actors that I don't necessarily know. Oh, Jeff Goldblum and
Jonathan Bailey. I know it was the...
Oh, Jonathan Bailey. Who's Jonathan Bailey? Oh, the
Figaro.
Yes. Fierro? It says Prince Fierro here. I can't remember exactly how to. Yeah.
It's been a few weeks since I saw it.
Also, did you recognize the teacher who's like the goat person?
Yeah.
Do you recognize who it was?
I knew who it was.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage.
Yep.
Yeah, that was cool. It took me a second. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's his voice.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought well, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I thought the special effects for the goat were pretty well done.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any problem with any of that.
It was cool.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to think. Oh, we usually do box office. So box office says 527.8 million is what this says. So that's pretty good.
So it's been a hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty high compared. I'm trying to think about the other movies that
it's probably the
might
highest.
Be the highest one. Yeah, it probably is the highest one, which is cool.
Yeah.
So give me your general thoughts. What did you think?
So I've seen the film twice.
Right.
So you hated it. So that might give you a little bit of a hint right off the bat. But I really liked it. I was very surprised, honestly, going into it because this film was just marketed like crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
I was pleasantly surprised. Like I really enjoyed the film overall. I mean, I've never seen the musical, so I will say that. But I have seen like clips from the musical of like more of the famous numbers from songs from the musical. So I was familiar with the story enough where like I was interested in seeing it, but I wasn't expecting much, and it blew me away. Honestly, like it was way better than I was expecting. Yeah. So that was my initial reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you thought it was good enough that you went. So what was your reasoning for seeing it again? It was so good, or did you want to like pick up on other things?
Well, partly to pick up on other things. Partly just I was going with people who hadn't seen it yet.
Okay.
So it was fun to hear their reactions after the fact.
Yeah, it would be a good one to watch with a group of people. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's mainly why I saw it twice. But.
Yeah.
And I did pick up on some stuff, which we'll talk about. But.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Same setup for me. I hadn't seen the musical. Didn't actually even know the premise of the musical at all.
Yeah.
Before
so you knew nothing.
I knew
really about it.
I think I knew, I just hearing other reviews.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, I wasn't going to see this.
Yeah.
And then I heard some other reviews and I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty good. And then Maddie wanted to see it. She was interested in it. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll go with you. But for musicals are kind of hit and miss for me. Like,
right.
I think I would say the more musicals I watch, the more I realize I do kind of like them.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget, the thing about musicals is I always forget that they're actually very emotional and like impactful.
Right.
Like I always think of musicals as just like fun and dancing and song, and I'm like,
just kind of not taking things super seriously. Yeah.
But then every time I watch a musical, I'm like, oh, this is pretty serious. Like, and this one too, like this one is very serious.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, like emotional things happening. So that's why I always forget about musicals. And so, that was going into it. Same as you. I was like, oh, this is just another Disney thing. Like it's probably didn't put a lot of effort into it. Just like a moneymaker, and watched it. And I was also blown away. Yeah. It took a little bit to get into the world and whatnot, getting into the school. I was like, oh, this is kind of weird being at like a, basically Hogwarts, but like
right. It definitely did have that vibe. Yeah.
So it took a second. But I think once the song started hitting, I was like, okay, these are good. These are good songs, and there's some emotion behind them. And then, we'll save some more for later. But in general, I was very surprised how much I liked it. Yeah, and it was it impressed me.
Yeah, that was
quite
the same reaction.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably one of the better movies I've seen this year.
Yeah, no, definitely at the towards the top of my list. Not the top, but towards the top of my list for sure. Cool. Yeah. Anything else? Anything specific you want to call out?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really kind of was a standout for me, obviously the acting was really good.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed Ariana Grande's performance, and Cynthia obviously was really good as well. But Ariana was a lot funnier than I was expecting.
Yeah,
and the way she was kind of able to take on that character and make it kind of her own, although she was looking, because I've went back and watched like some of the original musical scenes again, and she was obviously heavily inspired by the original cast.
Yeah,
and the original actress who played Glenda in the musical. But it was cool to kind of see her kind of play like somebody so funny in the film.
Right. Yeah.
And I felt like in both times I saw it, like a lot of the jokes in the movie were landing really well, and like people react, like there was a lot of audience reaction to parts where they were supposed to be reacting. So that was kind of cool to see as well, or just experience with a group. And I know the last movie I saw in theaters was Joker, and I was in the theater with like one other person. And so it was fun to be in like a theater, like close. I didn't see it opening night, but it was like a couple nights after it came out. It was fun to be in a theater with like a full packed house and hear the audience reaction. Like I feel like I haven't been to a movie like that very often, especially lately.
Yeah, ours was full too. And I think we did like a 3:30 showing. I can't remember if it was. I think it was during the week too. Because
I saw it during the week.
Yeah. Yep. So I was like, wow, this is packed. and we did a big theater, like a more modern one, and it was huge. Yeah. Like, and the screen was gigantic. Yeah. Which is another thing I don't know if I'd been to a screen that big.
Yeah.
That wasn't IMAX. We went to what is it? Oh gosh, no, I'm blanking.
Where is it?
It is in Maple Grove.
Oh, Maple Grove.
Or Maple Grove. It's by the Fleet Farm over there. I forget what it's called. Yeah, I'm blanking on it. But
I don't think I've been there.
It's a nicer one. It's a nicer one. Anyway, cool. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me, is just like being able to see it with the audience, audience participating and reacting to things was really cool during the film. I really enjoyed the fact that they used so many practical sets. That was a big thing that kind of stood out to me, is just like, obviously there's CGI in the film, but a lot of the sets were built and a lot of the effects were practical, enhanced with CGI obviously, but it was cool to see a film kind of on this scale, not relying on CGI as heavily as other kind of films that have come out recently.
Right, yeah.
So I feel like that'll help to kind of sell the story and the world a little bit more than some films I've seen recently.
Yeah, I mean, it did feel like more you're watching a musical, like in person,
right?
Which is cool with the sets,
right?
Along with, although the sets were way more dramatic than an actual musical is, but and then also the singing, that which is a lot of people are talking about, they were actually singing live, right. Which I think we talked about this. I was trying to figure out what that means exactly, because they're cutting a lot.
Right.
It's not like it's a one take like a play would be, like, it's not like it's a one take where they're singing. So they're cutting a lot of shots up. So does that mean that they sing a bunch of takes, they pick the best take, and then they're just kind of matching the voice with a different shot? Like, oh, we want this take 3 of this visual, and it just
I'm sure like you and I obviously we're editors.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was editing involved. I've noticed it throughout, but I think I was researching a little bit before this, and one of the big things musicals tend to do is they have a track that the actors are singing to during filming.
Right.
And so they're not recording that audio at all.
Yeah.
Like when they're filming. So I think that was a big thing, is they were kind of recording that audio on set.
Yeah, because they couldn't do that, obviously.
Right. So they were recording the audio. They didn't have like a pre-recorded thing. that they were playing.
But let's be real.
It was edited.
Let's be real. They could take these 3 words, these 4 words, these 3 words.
Right.
Right.
But I think again the approach was that they're singing live on set versus using like a pre-recorded track that they're just pretending to sing to. Yeah, so they were able to like take the actual performances from the filming.
It's better, but it's still not as impressive as a musical where they get
where they're doing
shot.
it live.
Yeah. But that was cool, and it felt like a musical, a real musical, and it was cool. I enjoyed it. With the acting, I did think the acting was good. It did take me a little bit to get Ariana Grande's character in my head because it was so
over the top
because I didn't know the source material. It took me a little bit to be like, oh man, she's really cheesy,
right?
And then I'm like, okay, that's the point.
Yeah.
This is very like sarcastic. And so it took me a little bit to be like, is she just acting poorly, or is that just the character?
Purpose,
And it is just a character. So it took a little bit to settle into that.
Yeah, which I get.
But I really liked, Alphaba, Cynthia. I really connected with her.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't, she's not very like boisterous or like her character's pretty subdued. I definitely connected with her in a lot of different ways. So I felt like it was really effective. So cool.
Yeah. And did you have like a favorite like musical number from the film?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm saying what everybody else is saying is my favorite musical number was the final one.
Yeah. Defying Gravity.
Defying Gravity. Cause man, it was one of those moments where you're like, you get chills.
Right.
Your eyes start to water.
Right.
And you're looking around the room like, yep, that's everybody else is feeling the same thing. And I don't know if it was the live singing that really brought it out, or I just feel like that song kind of like starts slow and subtle and then it just builds.
Just keeps building.
Yeah. It was good.
Right.
It was very good. And then, so that was definitely,
obviously like a lot of people who know the musical, like that's the moment everyone's waiting for.
Yeah.
And so it just was so impactful.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, cause I did go watch like that, the musical version
from the
of
stage,
that. Yeah. From the stage. And I felt like it hits harder in the movie. Maybe, I don't know why, but maybe it's the visuals that do it. But
versus the stage plays more subdued, obviously.
Yeah. But although if I had, was watching the musical and had been sitting there for an hour and a half or however long it takes, then I probably would have been, into it more as opposed to just watching that one.
So I think, kind of on that line, I think the interesting thing is this is a part 1.
Yeah.
Obviously. True. So we got part 2 coming.
Part 1, part 2.
I thought it was interesting in the marketing. They never really said it was a part 1 at all. Like I had heard that it was somewhere.
Right.
But I thought it was funny that none of the trailers were really saying that.
Yeah. I mean, yes, because when I hear part 1, part 2, I'm immediately like, oh, really? That's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Which was my reaction.
Mainly because I feel like I've gotten burned with it. I got burned with it with Spider-Man Across the Universe, or Across the Universe. That would be a good mix-up. Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. Because that one came out like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. We just rewatched it, and this is why I'm thinking about it. But it ends at a very cliffhangery point. Right. And did you say you hadn't watched it yet?
I've seen the first one.
Okay, you didn't see the second one, so I won't spoil anything. But it ends on a cliffhanger, and I was in the theaters. I didn't know it was a part 1, and I was like, once it goes black, I'm like, what? Like, you're kidding, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of made me mad not knowing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that they chose not to tell you in this.
Maybe for that reason they did.
Maybe,
I don't know.
but I will say, for me, this one works much better because it feels like a full story that happens here. It feels like a solid ending with that song.
And I mean, it kind of works because in the musical, this is where the intermission happens. So they had a natural place to cut it off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it was already kind of built into the story that way.
Yeah, so I went into this thinking that was gonna piss me off and make me mad.
Yeah,
but by the end of it, I was like, oh no, that's okay. Yeah, it works. Yeah. So
it made me excited for the second part.
Yeah, I am interested. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the second part's gonna be totally different. Right. Again, not knowing the story.
Right. And I don't know anything about the second half of the musical.
Yeah.
Not having seen it, so
we'll
see what happens.
I'm interested because I feel like it's gonna really expand over the whole world. Like it's not gonna be just in the school or not even not in like with the wizard and stuff.
Yeah.
in the Emerald City, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that expands and I
am too.
How that goes.
Yeah. I had one more thing. I don't know if you had anything else on Wicked, but wanted to talk through. I don't know if you've seen, but people were kind of. I saw like a big critical thing people had against the film was the color correction choices.
Oh, interesting.
From a standpoint of people thinking it just looked a little bit too dull compared to the original Wizard of Oz, especially where they're like, we're
vibrant,
gonna go full vibrant
saturation.
Technicolor.
Yeah,
like obviously they were showing off Technicolor and they really wanted it to be super vibrant and popping, and people were like, they could have like made the color more saturated. I was curious if like what your thoughts were on that.
I definitely didn't notice it, but I will say that's not usually something I really notice. I don't think. I don't feel like I've noticed that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at all the first time I watched it, but going into it the second time, I had that in my back of my mind since people were talking about it, and I was paying attention to it a little bit more. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, there were scenes where it could have been a little bit more vibrant. I thought it was interesting, the dances through life sequence when they're in the library.
In the library, yeah.
All the windows in that whole library like super blown out.
Yep, I did notice that because that was a little jarring. Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a way that I was like, this is not normal.
Yeah, I noticed that too the first time I watched it. I'm like, it's an interesting choice, and I've seen people kind of criticize that a bit on like you're shooting digitally. Like, why would you blow out all the windows? And like people are like complaining about the lighting in that scene. What I thought was interesting, I was watching behind the scenes, and all the windows are blue screen. So it's like
oh, really?
They're all blue screen. So it's a choice, and the director has come out and kind of said that like he wanted the film to feel a little bit more set in reality, like a stage musical would, and so it was just kind of tying into like we want it to feel like you're watching a musical almost on the stage.
Yeah. See, and so if there's a reason behind it, and that reason is pretty solid. I buy that.
Yeah, and I mean, and we were talking about that earlier. It's like the sets were designed with that in mind.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's a cool homage to the original musical, I think.
Yeah, it was a little. I will say it distracted me.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that it would distract most people. It only distracts me because we're in the video industry.
Yeah, right.
And literally, I was just thinking this feels like a documentary film.
Yeah.
Because like in a situation where there's a lot of windows and we're inside, so the colors, the lights is different.
Which is exactly what he was going for.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah. No, he nailed it.
I thought it was interesting just hearing other people comment on that, and I was like, I mean, I went back and watched the original Wizard of Oz a few weeks ago. Or a week or two ago, and it is very vibrant.
Yeah.
Like that scene is so famous, obviously, when they go from black and white to Technicolor. It's like, maybe they could have played into that a little bit more, but it didn't bother me too much.
Yeah. And the other scene that, again, I'm sure other people are talking about this is, and I won't spoil anything because I do feel like it's better to go into the scene without knowing, but I'll just say like the dance scene.
Yeah.
The things that happened there.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that to hit me emotionally as much as it did. Because it really, if you explain the scene, it's not that. It's like, we've seen that a million times, in a little bit different way, but it doesn't seem that impactful. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what they did to affect me that much, but it affected me pretty hard.
Same, man. Like both times I saw it, I was like, that scene really works for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and then just broadly talking about like it's obviously about the relationship between the two, the witches that we know will be the good and the bad witch.
Yep.
And yeah, that relationship is interesting because, it's pretty generic of like, okay, well, the one's kind of the popular one and she's kind of a bully, but she's not really, but she's really nice, so people are okay with it.
Right.
They definitely played that up, which it was interesting how much like her friends were like almost seemed like more of a bully than her.
Right. Just almost kind of encouraging her to be a bully.
That was interesting. And then it does slowly switch.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a movie where it's just like, okay, they're best friends now. So I appreciated that. It did slowly happen. And even when they were like friends, she was still like trying to change her.
As my brother called them, her PR team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. They're giving her what do you call it? A makeover. Yeah. I appreciated that, and what I really appreciated about it's Glinda, right?
Yeah,
but
Galinda originally. Galinda originally,
and then she switches it to Glinda for reasons I won't spoil. But although it was funny. It just plays as a joke basically, so it's kind of weird. But But I appreciated that even when she had her switch, she still felt like the same character.
Yeah.
She was still doing things where I'm like, oh, that's kind of shitty. Like, you should just let her be who she is.
Right.
But she was doing it in a different way, or she was thinking about it more. And even at the end of it, how they kind of like depart or divide a little bit was interesting, because it's not like they were angry with each other. It's not like there was a fight and they were like, oh, I hate you now.
Right.
So
like bigger implications going on.
Yeah.
That kind of caused that. Yeah.
More so like they both have strong beliefs in things that are now clashing, and they have to kind of just separate each other
because of that. Yeah.
Which I feel like is realistic to real life. So I appreciated, I appreciated that they stuck to that character. Again, it's probably calling back to the musical.
Right.
Stuck to that character, and she doesn't like completely do a 180. She still is like a little bit like shitty.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll see what happens in part 2 where they take that. But I agree. Like just the way they, and from what I've seen of the original musical, like it is very much inspired by that. But the way they were able to showcase the two characters' relationship really worked for me throughout the film. Yeah.
What did you think about the stuff with the teacher who's like the half goat, half man, and all that?
I thought it could have been maybe a little bit more front and center in the film, because that's apparently a big plot point of the musical.
Right. I feel like it's there. It takes a while for it to really come in.
It does, yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, it was just kind of like backstage a little bit, it felt like.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie.
I mean, the other thing that this movie is about, beyond the things that we've mentioned, is it's about racism almost.
Right.
I mean, and that really hits it on the head. It's obvious there.
Right.
But it's interesting because there's kind of like two things that are doing that, which is Alphaba's skin color.
And the animals.
And then the animals. Yeah. So it was interesting to me where I'm like, oh, well, we're kind of doing this twice.
Yeah.
So I was kind of confused by that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, she stands for the cause because of how it's affected her.
And it does have bigger story implications that we don't want to spoil. There are bigger things that happen.
Plot points of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I'm interested in that theme, that, that piece that's running throughout the whole thing. But it was kind of like, why are we already are kind of hinting on that. Now we're just like really talking about like in your face.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I think, you can fact check me on this, because we tried to look this up, but I feel like there was not ever a black actress who played this character in the musical. Or maybe it took a while.
Maybe. I don't know. I
think we were asking the question of, is this the first time a black actress is playing Alphaba? And we looked it up, and again, fact check me, I thought I remember that there wasn't. Yeah. And that was kind of like, it took this long to pull that one.
Yeah.
Like, that seems obvious. Like, you should start with that in the first showing of this.
I think musical. I read there's been 47
people.
Maybe that was Glinda, actually. Maybe it was like 36 or something.
And I should say, we were probably just looking like on Broadway.
On Broadway, we weren't. So I think there was 36 actresses who've played her on Broadway.
Oh, on Broadway. It's been that many. I mean, it's been out for a while.
But I don't know. I don't know.
So anyway, fact check me. But nonetheless, it took some time to make that connection, which is like, seems like very obvious. So, and obviously works very well in the movie. So appreciated that. But just that whole theme running through was really the heart of it. And I feel like that worked pretty well. So
yeah. I think they did a great job with it.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else, or should we move on? Was there anything else you didn't like?
I don't know.
What about the Prince guy?
Yeah.
His character's kind of weird.
Kind of weird.
Not weird, but like interesting, like how, like clearly he's going to play a bigger part in the second half.
Right.
Because he wasn't that much in this.
Right.
And he's kind of, the love interest of Galinda, but also has some opinions that are matching with Alphaba.
Right.
So it's seeming like he's going to kind of be the middle
between the two.
But yeah, he's not in it that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think to me, that character was the weakest part of this first part. I just was like scratching my head, like, where is his character going? And then at the end, it comes around. And I'm like, okay, I get it. That's where that's going. But it felt a little out of place. I don't know. I felt like, I don't know.
I didn't feel that as much, but I thought I like the fact. So one of the big changes they made from the musical apparently is they had him like his intro scene. They had him ride in on a horse, and they gave him like a horse buddy. Okay. So they're kind of playing into the animal plot a little bit more than they did in the play, and I thought that was a nice change to kind of get him more involved with that side plot.
Remind me, so he just rides in on a horse.
He rides in on a horse, but it's like he can talk to the horse.
Oh, he can talk to the horse. Oh, I didn't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, I really noticed the second time.
Well, that makes sense. That does make sense with where his character goes. Okay.
So it gives I think just from the musical to the movie, it just gives him a little bit more of kind of tie into that plot point.
Yeah, that makes sense. But,
I don't know. I thought he was funny. I thought he did a good job with the character, but I'm with you. Like towards the end, it's like it doesn't really go anywhere too much.
Yeah, I will say I'm not saying I didn't like his performance. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
I was just like a little confused with the character. And it's probably just because it's a part 1, part 2, and he's got to play a bigger part in part 2. That's what I'm assuming. So
we will see.
Yeah, we will see. And it's supposed to come out next year.
Yeah, I think
they
same
were
time,
kind of shooting it all together,
back to back. Yeah,
that's cool.
So they'll be able to release it just a year wait.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have anything else. I mean, it was good. I can't. And again, I will say, when I'm talking to people who don't like musicals, I would say you should still give this one a shot.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because it goes beyond what you expect from a musical. The first 30 minutes, you'll get used to it, but then it does go beyond what you might expect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would recommend it to everybody, honestly. And you might be surprised if you don't think you're going to like it, you might be surprised. So.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to do ratings now for it? Or?
Yeah, let's do ratings now.
All right. So I gave it 4.5, Adam.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Good score.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What would have gotten it to the 5, do you think? A second part?
Yeah, second part. Honestly, that's probably part of it. Is like because it's a part 1, the story doesn't quite wrap up, obviously, and I think the only other thing watching back on it was there was certain, especially we were talking about the animal plot point, but it just felt like it was a little bit kind of not like especially the teacher. It just wasn't as like in the foreground as it should have been. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I gave it a 4.5 also.
Nice.
No, I was very surprised with this. I think it works on a lot of levels. I mean, I'm trying to think what would get it to the 5. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it probably partly is just the ending of the story. That is kind of what's missing. Mm-hmm. And I do think there are some things that are kind of a little more straightforward. It's not like that. Like
it's predictable.
It's a little predictable. Although towards the end, there are some things that are not predictable. Yeah, so I mean, there's something there. I don't know. There's something where I'm like, it's so close to a 5-star, but just not quite there. But it was really good. Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Cool. Should we move on?
Yeah.
To Gladiator.
Talk Gladiator.
Yes.
You got a trivia question?
I do have a trivia question. Here is my trivia question. And this is not multiple choice, but I have a feeling you will know this one.
All right, we'll see.
So if you know it right away, don't shout it out. Give people time to think about it. What prominent historical figure did Denzel Washington portray in 1992? I'm gonna stop there. See if you know from just that, and then I'll finish the rest of it. Don't say your answer, but just tell me if you know what it is.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay. Under the direction of Spike Lee. Does that give it to you? So, historical figure.
Malcolm X.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got there. I thought you might get there. Yes, Malcolm X.
Yeah, that's right.
Which
just took me a moment to remember the year that came out.
Yeah, I was just thinking 90s. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Malcolm X.
All right.
Very good film. I watched this for the first time a few years ago. Maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I've seen it once.
And it was kind of another one where I was like, okay, I was very surprised by how good that was.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. Cool. That's my trivia.
Nice. Got a synopsis.
That's where.
Are we avoiding spoilers?
So this is how we're gonna try to do this. I'm gonna do the synopsis, which in itself has a little bit of a spoiler, but I feel like people know about it right now. We're gonna do probably like we're going to do our general thoughts and maybe a little bit more than that. And at some point we'll switch to spoiler section because it's pretty spoiler heavy. Obviously, you know, it's the second movie of two. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of tie-ins that we kind of want to talk about. So we'll do half and half. So the synopsis is, years after witnessing the death of Maximus at the hands of his uncle, Lucius must enter the Colosseum after the powerful emperors of Rome conquer his home. I'll just stop there. The rest is nothing, nonsense. But that's basically the gist. Right. So, if you remember the first movie, again, I'm not gonna spoil anything. Yep. If you remember the first movie, Lucius is Joaquin Phoenix's character. Do you know his name? What's his name? Commodus. Yeah. His nephew.
Yep.
So that's the main character of this film. Just as a setup there.
Right.
I'm curious to hear what you thought about it.
Yeah.
What did you think about Gladiator 2?
So Gladiator 2, man. I was entertained by it.
So you were entertained.
I was entertained. Glad you caught that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it for the most part. I don't know if it was necessary. Okay. I think that's my biggest gripe with it is like, I don't think the story gave us really anything new necessarily. It kind of followed the same story beats as the original film.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my biggest kind of critique of the film, I guess. I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't amazing by any means, but it wasn't bad-ish. I don't know. It wasn't terrible.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So this one's tough. This one's very interesting. I have some similar feelings as Joker Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
As in what you're saying, this didn't need to be made.
Yeah.
And it's probably only being made because the director, in this case, the director is getting a lot of money. And he's like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the feeling that I got throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's hard because if I were to watch this in a vacuum without having seen the first movie,
it's well made.
I'd be like, okay, it's a well-made movie. It's got solid acting. I don't think the acting's that great. There's been some praise for it, and I'm like, I don't see that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's solid. There's nothing bad. The action's fun, interesting. There's some interesting visuals.
Mm-hmm. Some cool set pieces.
Some cool stuff going on. But the second that I compare it to the first one, which I was doing the whole time I was watching this, because how do you not? That's where I'm like, I'm mad at this movie for going the direction it went.
Sure.
And the main thing I can pin it to is the tone is totally different from the first movie, in my opinion. I will say I didn't rewatch Gladiator, which I wanted to.
Yeah.
But from what I remember, the first tone is, it's action, it's bloody, it's violent, but it's pretty emotional, especially, at the beginning and the end, they got some emotional parts, and it's pretty serious. Like, it plays it pretty straight. There's not crazy things happening. This one, we got baboons, we got rhinos, we got sharks filling the whole arena with water, which was a cool idea, but it just doesn't work in the world of Gladiator. Doesn't feel as serious.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing, is the tone of this feels more like a B action movie than a really good classic blockbuster. And that's kind of what it is. Yeah. And so if you're okay with that, then you might like this film. But that's not what I wanted. Yeah. Because that, I feel like, is what you usually get with sequels of like older movies, like usually when it's like a different director and different actors, that's what you get. You get the B movie version that's just there to make money. I felt like this was the B movie version, but we still had the same same director, so it was like, why?
Yeah. And 24 years later.
24 years later, exactly.
23 years later. When did it come out? 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was fine. And throughout the whole thing, I was like, if this ends solid, then I'll be fine with it.
Right.
Once I walked out, I was like, you know what? I don't like this movie. Because it's just doing, I don't know. It's just making a lot of choices that I kind of despise. So I really did not like it. Yeah. If I think back upon it, I didn't like it. And the entertainment factor wasn't enough for me.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll leave it there for general thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can kind of dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say that's not spoilery that gives an idea of how you felt?
I think the only other thing, I mean, it is very much like a paint by numbers sequel.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, remember all these things from the first movie that you loved? We're going to do that all over again.
Yep.
And for me, like, yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. The set pieces were cool again, like I was saying. Some of the sequences were well made. Like, the camera work's really good. Directing was decent. I really liked Denzel Washington in the film. I thought he was definitely, like, as far as the three leads go, the strongest performance. Anytime he was on the screen, it was very interesting, and I just like what he gave to that character. But yeah, overall, it's like, looking back, I think I feel similar to you, where it's like, I mean, it was fun, but I don't think we needed it, and I don't know, it didn't give anything new to the story world of Gladiator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I should say I didn't
beyond a couple spoilers, of course.
Yeah, I didn't say who's in this. So Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, and Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Also Joseph Quinn,
Yep.
who I didn't know that his name, but the guy from Stranger Things season 4, right? I just watched these, so yeah, 4. Eddie.
Yep.
Eddie. I'll ask you, what did you think of the setup for people who haven't seen it? Instead of one emperor, there's now 2 emperors that are brothers.
Brothers.
which I heard that's actually based off of that happened at some point in the history. Maybe did you tell me that? Maybe you told me that.
It was on IMDb.
Okay. Yeah.
So hopefully IMDb is correct.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. What did you think of the 2 emperors' performances?
I mean, there was nothing special necessarily. Like, it kind of went exactly how I was expecting the story to go as far as their like story.
Really? Okay, interesting.
For the most part, I did enjoy. I will say I did enjoy, not to say too many spoilers, but Denzel Washington in the
his
council,
connection with
and his connection
the
with them.
emperors.
Yep. Yeah. So that piece of the story was really fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were interesting enough as villains.
I think I'm kind of opposite a little bit of you on that. They're my favorite part of the film.
You like them?
Which is weird because they are very B action movie.
Yeah.
So I'm questioning why I like it so much.
They're almost like
but
comics to an extent.
I thought it was I just thought they were interesting characters that we hadn't seen yet in these films, and I actually couldn't really think of characters like that in any other movie that I've seen.
Yeah.
Just the relationship of, they're brothers. They're kind of like the communists where they just want violence and that's all they care about. Right. So we've seen that. That's fine.
Maybe it was just because I'm like, oh, you're not Joaquin Phoenix.
Right, sure.
But
yeah. Well, again, the role that Joaquin plays is just so much scarier because it feels real.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. And that is, to me, that was probably the only interesting thing in this film. That was different because it really...
I will say it definitely was one of the more interesting parts of the movie.
Yeah. And I agree, Denzel's kind of character arc is also the interesting part.
Yeah.
So that whole story is probably the best part, which is funny because it has nothing to do with the main character or really...
Meanwhile, he's over here.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is kind of interesting. Trying to think of... I was going to say, I don't know, and maybe it's just because I just watched season 4 of Stranger Things that I'm into that actor, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, and then the one brother's kind of dumb and like has no idea, and the other one's like smarter, more conniving. But so yeah. Anyway, that was that. Yeah. What else? What did you think of the baboons?
Honestly, they really bothered me.
Yeah.
It was like a CGI fest, man.
Yeah.
They did not look real at all.
Yeah. It was rough.
Yeah.
And not only, I don't even know if it was bad CGI.
Yeah.
I just think it was bad design.
Yeah.
It was bad choice that I'm assuming Ridley Scott is the one who's making those final decisions.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And for me, the baboon that he fights with, because there's a few of them, looked different than the other ones.
Yeah.
He didn't have hair.
Yeah.
And he was like hairless, which could be a real thing.
It is a real thing, apparently. According to Ridley Scott, it is.
Okay. But
it's based on one he saw apparently at one point or
But here's the thing. and I say this a lot in movies. If that's a justification of his choice, but if 99% of the people watching that film don't know that, then it's going to be off-putting. Yeah. So don't do it. It didn't look real. It felt like it was something out of a fantasy film.
Right.
And it was so early in the movie that was right when I was like, oh, this is what this is going to be.
Now we're in for it.
It set me up for not liking everything else that was like kind of off. I was like, I remember those baboons. Those were terrible. So I really don't like this now. Like it was a dumb decision, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It definitely took me out of the film.
Yeah. And on that note is the other main thing that I really don't like about the Gladiator part of it. Every fight has to be better, more intense, more crazy, more wild than the last one. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you have to do that. Because I think the idea of a gladiator fight is already interesting enough.
Right.
And take it more on the human level, which is what they do in the first one. Yeah. And they have lions in the first one, but that's fine. That's up this level. That's not up here with the baboons or the water scene.
Rhinos and
the rhino. Yeah. It's just like I felt like you didn't have to one up yourself on every single one.
Battle. Yeah.
My favorite fight was them fighting the first fight not the first fight, but the battle at the beginning was cool. That's not what I'm getting at. That was good. The fight in the palace where it was Lucius and some random guy, right?
Yeah, in front of the emperor.
They were fighting so close to the emperors that was interesting. We hadn't seen that yet. Right. We didn't see that in Gladiator. Right.
And the fact that they're all just there.
They're all just there cheering. It's their partying, and they're like, bring in these two guys. They're gonna beat each other.
Kill each other in front of us. Yeah,
exactly. And then there was tension with like the emperor like coming up and like congratulating him and then like you're like, oh, like he literally could kill this guy right now.
I know.
So is that gonna happen? Like that was my favorite fight.
Yeah.
And then everything else was just like, really? I don't feel like you gotta go there. I don't know.
I mean, apparently the ship thing actually happened.
No way.
Yeah. Apparently.
No, it didn't.
Apparently. They would
But now with sharks.
No, with sharks, but they would flood the Colosseum and do battles.
See, that's again the same example of yes, maybe that happened. Yeah. Nobody knows that. Right. So they're gonna watch it and be like, that's ridiculous.
Like, what's going on now?
So yeah. Yep. Anyway, I think that was the main thing. The tonal shift from the first movie, and the one-uppiness of like gotta be better than the last one. Yeah. Those are the two things that just did not work for me at all. So. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Those definitely, like looking back, probably the weaker parts of the film.
Yeah. I mean, the water thing is interesting, but I feel like they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
It was like, well, first of all, the boats, no way they would be moving that fast.
Right.
There's no way. Right. So you're telling me that part was real?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if any of that's like accurate to real life, but I know like apparently they flooded they would like reenact
and they had boats. Yeah. But like the boats were moving so fast and they just had arrows and they were just shooting each other. I'm like, well, that's not very fun.
Right.
Like,
we could just hit each other.
Did they even jump on the other boat?
I think they did at one
maybe
point.
they do. Yeah. To be honest, I kind of zoned out and I was like, this is weird. I don't know. I was distracted by it.
Yeah.
The idea is cool. I don't need sharks.
Yeah.
They didn't even fall in the water. Like, it's not like they were like swimming from the sharks. Right. Like, it's silly. Yeah. It's silly.
Again, did we need this movie? No.
No,
probably not.
I think what it did was all of the things that I think a lot of people hate about these remakes. It said, people hate this, and this. So we're going to do all of those. People hate when it's just like a shot for shot, like remake. People hate when there's all these like
all the callback
things. People hate when there's nothing new, and it did all of those things.
Yep.
It's just like, there's just no creativity. I just didn't feel like the writing, again, the stuff with the emperors and Denzel, yes, that was different. But beyond that, there was no creativity. I didn't feel like it. So.
Yeah.
So.
And we want to talk about the main character. It's like
we haven't talked about we haven't talked about the main character yet.
Meanwhile, it's Gladiator too, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is spoilery.
Yeah.
He just, I don't know. He felt like a generic hero.
Again, by the numbers, like pretty much what I was expecting to happen happened.
Yeah. Again,
obviously there's a twist in there, but
yeah, he just felt generic, and it was confusing. It was a little confusing, his motivation.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, his motivation this is a little spoiler, so I'll just save that. But his motivation is obvious from the beginning, but that at the end, I'm like, I don't buy that his motivation switched to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. He was okay. He was fine. Pedro Pascal was pretty generic, and I don't remember much.
Yeah.
He was kind of a weird character too, because you're like, well, we like him.
Yeah. But
he's kind of, but he's the main source of the main character's motivation at the beginning, right. But we still like him. Right. So it's like, why do we like him?
So yeah, he was complicated, I guess.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah. And that's all spoilers stuff. Yeah. So maybe we should just jump into it. But
it sounds like we might, unless you have anything else.
No, but I'm wondering, do we need to give star ratings now for people who are signing off?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. I don't remember what I ended up sitting at, but, Gladiator. I'm pretty sure I gave it, and thinking back, yeah, I think it's a 2.5 for me.
Yeah.
It's a solidly made film, so I'm not gonna like trash it too much. But to me, like 3 is like I liked it, but it's fine. And 2.5 is where I'm like I didn't like it. So I can confidently say I did not like this movie the more I think about it. So 2.5, just under the like okay. Yeah. I don't think it's okay. I think it's bad.
Yeah, I give it a 3 just because it was better than I was expecting after 24 years of waiting for a Gladiator sequel that we never asked for.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the one time I'm going to watch it. I probably won't watch it again.
Yeah. It is funny how much what you're expecting, your expectations going into affect it, because this one did screw me up, because when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Basically, I was thinking it was going to be what it is.
Yeah.
Then I heard like people saying like it was decent, kind of good, and like Denzel's really good, which I actually don't agree that Denzel was that amazing. He's good. Denzel's always good. So, but compared to Training Day or Malcolm X,
right,
or even
it's a different level,
or American Gangster, it's just like it's not anywhere close to what he can do. And there were moments where I was like, is this out of character, or is this just a character choice that we're only seeing once or twice? Like at one point when he's meeting like the other, who was that other guy? Who the guy he keeps betting with, right?
Right. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
And he kind of
he's another one on the council, right?
Is he on the
like a governor or something?
Yeah, I can't remember, but he's like betting on the games with him. When he meets him, he does this weird like laugh, and like he's like sticks his tongue out and he's like ha ha ha, and I'm like, that's not the character that we've been to. And then it kind of like I'm like, okay, it's kind of a choice he's making, but he's like kind of like not. Yeah. It was weird. So because like he kind of he kind of plays like what's the word, bisexual, or like he kind of like hints at that, but I'm like, so flamboyant. He's kind of like on the edge of flamboyant, but I'm like, you're not really, I don't feel like he's really committing to that. Like, I feel like he's kind of, in this scene he's flamboyant, this scene he's not. So I don't know. I didn't actually think it was that great. Still good.
Yeah.
Of a performance. Because he's always
Denzel,
good.
He's never bad.
He's Denzel, he's always good. But anyway, so I forget where we were going with that, but
just the rating,
yeah. So 2.5, and you were saying 3. Like, passable.
It's average.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's dive into a little bit of spoilers. But for anybody signing out, thanks for joining us. We'll have another one hopefully in a month or so. Do we know what we're going to review in a month or so?
Not yet.
Have we talked about? So
what's coming out in January?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'll review this, but I really wanted to watch the new Lord of the Rings, and like I don't know if it's technically anime because I don't know if it's Japanese made, but animation.
Animated.
It feels like an anime. The style feels anime. Yeah. I really want to watch that. I don't think we might not review it, but I will watch that at some point. And then I guess we kind of just talked about doing our year-end review, right? Yeah. So we might just do that, skip to that, because there's Nosferatu. It's coming out late December, like on Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Bob Dylan one with Timothy Chalamet, that was cool. He was in town.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to see him. I'm interested in those two also. But honestly, we maybe should just save it for a year-end review, and then we can just, if those were good enough, then we'll talk about them. Maybe do just kind of talk about our favorite movies, talk about our least favorite movies, talk about, who has best actor, worst actor, just things like that. So anyway, we'll have to discuss. But yeah, come back on the next one, and will be nice to see again.
Yeah.
But goodbye for now, and then we'll head into spoilers for anybody who is okay with being spoiled for this. So,
all right.
So for spoilers, okay, the biggest thing, Lucius is Maximus's son.
Yeah.
And when I was watching, because I didn't rewatch Gladiator, I was like, this is not in Gladiator at all.
Right.
But I think it is.
It is.
Explain to me how it is.
It's okay. So they never say it's his son.
Okay.
There's a couple scenes where he meets with Lucius.
Yes. Yeah.
As a kid.
Yep.
In the first movie, and at one point he says, "You're similar age to my boy."
Okay.
But he's talking about his son, like his actual son.
So does Maximus know?
I don't think so.
He doesn't know.
I don't think so. And it's never like that is literally the only hint watching back in Gladiator, like, oh, maybe this is like hinting at the fact that it's his son, but there's nothing else in the original movie that really hints at that.
Yeah. I think I was because obviously, is there any hint to the relationship between Maximus and the Queen?
A little bit, yeah.
Or is she a queen?
Yeah, so they had a relationship at some point before he met his wife, I think is what was implied in the first movie. Yeah. Or like shortly before he met his wife.
Yeah.
So they did have a relationship at one point. They knew each other.
So to me, like thinking about writing that, it is kind of weird to put that in there if your plan wasn't to be that.
Yeah. I don't know. But on the other...
But they never say it.
Yeah, they never say it. And then the other thing is like, he says his son is the same age as Lucius.
Right.
So the timing's weird because he would have been with his wife already.
Say that again. What do you mean?
So in Gladiator, he says to Lucius, he's like, "You're the same age as my son."
Right.
Which means like the timing would have been weird because he would have already married his wife, and just with like his character would have never done that. I feel like cheated on his wife at all.
But it could have been literally. It could have been right back
before.
To back.
Yeah. But it's just weird. It's weird timing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know.
And did you say that, maybe I'm remembering this from somewhere else, did you say that his age changes?
I think in the flashbacks in the new one, they changed his age slightly.
Okay. Or when they're discussing
his age, yeah, how old he was.
Yeah.
So maybe they did that on purpose. I don't know.
Yeah. So here's where I'm at with that. I get that it's hinted at in Gladiator.
Yeah. I mean, and hinted is like... is hinted very lightly. Yeah. I mean, that's being generous.
It's being generous. Yeah. Okay, if it wasn't even hinted in Gladiator, I'd be like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Because we don't need that. Like he's got I don't need that motivation from him, like that it's his dad, like he's trying to be his dad.
He obviously looked up to the dude in the original movie.
Exactly. He already
has that relationship.
So it's fine. He doesn't need to be the dad. It felt unnecessary.
Yeah.
So when I was watching it, that's what I was thinking, because I didn't think it was in there at all.
Yeah. And not only does it feel unnecessary, but it feels like it kind of especially with the timing stuff I was talking about, it feels like it goes against Maximus's character a bit in the first movie too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Or it could.
Yeah.
Or it could be taken that way.
Yeah, it could be taken that way. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's part of it. The other part is I really don't like. I don't usually like when they show clips of the first film or
flashbacks.
The flashback, but they're actually taking shots. Or they're kind of taking shots from it, or they're recreating that scene. Yeah. Because so
they're showing us stuff we didn't see in the first one.
Yeah. So they're showing the flashbacks. So do you know how they're doing that? Is that
so they were obviously Lucius, younger Lucius, they were using footage from the original movie.
So that was actual footage that they...
But then they were cutting it together with stuff they filmed for this one to make the scene, to show us things that that we didn't see in the first movie.
Oh, really? So... Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they're actually taking footage of him, something that they didn't use.
Well, you see him escaping from the city. That wasn't really ever in the movie.
Right.
The original.
But you're saying they shot that originally?
They didn't. No. So they just used footage from the original one of him and edited it to make it look basically show us that new scene.
So when we're seeing the flashbacks, the Lucius that we're seeing is taken from the original
movie.
It's footage from the...
Yep.
Interesting. And then also when we're seeing Maximus from the original,
Pretty sure, yeah.
That's not like AI. That's not like
it could have
CGI.
been. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was all from the original though.
But it's so weird because those scenes that happen there don't happen in the movie.
Editing. Maybe it was AI. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it feels so weird because I'm like, because basically like he's like laying on the ground and I forget what
what her name is.
Lucius's mother's name is.
Starts with an L.
But anyway, his mother, Lucilla?
Yeah.
Lucilla? That's what it says there, Lucilla.
I knew it started with an L.
I didn't even remember that. So she comes up to Maximus and is like, I'm getting him out of the city. So that would mean that Maximus knows who Lucius is at that point.
I mean,
otherwise he'd be like, getting who out? He'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So obviously he knows.
Yeah.
That's the implication of that flashback, which is again weird because it doesn't seem like he knows.
That was never in the original movie.
Yeah. So it's just weird because it seems like it's like shoving an idea into this movie that was not at all in the first one. Or like very little
mentioned,
and then it's just jarring because I'm like, wait, was that scene for a while? I'm like, was that scene in the first movie?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think so. So it just throws you off.
Yeah,
and I just did not like it.
Yeah,
as another instance where I'm like,
I'm with you. It's just a weird.
Mad.
Yeah, it's just a weird character choice or plot choice.
It's weird. I feel like, and the other thing was when they were showing those flashbacks, they kept. First of all, the style of filming is different. Mm-hmm. It looks different. It's just shot differently. And then they're using the music from that movie. Mm-hmm. And instantly I'm reminded that that's a different movie. Right. It didn't feel connected at all. It felt totally out of place.
Yeah.
And like if they were using the normal soundtrack throughout the whole second movie, then you'd be like, it feels
jarring,
like it's in this world.
Yeah.
But it feels like a totally different world.
It just feels like it's there as a callback.
Yeah. But it's not even, it's just not even like smoothly added in there. It's just like plop down. Remember this scene?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And the hand at the end, it's like, remember this scene? It's like take like the most emotional scene from the first movie and just take all the emotion out of it.
Yeah, the hand in the wheat. Yeah. And that was the other thing about this one. There was no emotion. Yeah. I was not really connected to anything happening on the screen.
Yeah.
Beyond like an entertainment level, like interest level. But
the first movie won Oscars.
Yeah. Right. Which is interesting that the first movie won Oscars because it shows you that it's a bloody action R-rated film. Yeah. But it's good. Yeah. And it has a lot of good moments. So that's just not what this was. So what other spoilery stuff? So you got that was the main part. Yeah. The Pedro Pascal thing where he kills Lucius's wife at the beginning, which is like, really? You're gonna do that again? Like spot on.
Same thing that happened in the first movie.
Like, come on. And I am tired of this like revenge plot thing. Man, oh my God, it's been
so overdone. Yeah.
So many times. I don't want to revenge. Be more creative.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they were Adam. He turned out to be a good guy.
Yeah. There was a little twist on it, sure.
Didn't see that coming.
That's fair. But just the revenge plot thing, I'm just like, there's no creativity.
As like the main motivation.
Yeah, as the main motivation of our character. It's like, man, there's got to be a different way to tell these stories than having somebody killed at the
especially since it's the exact same thing that happened in the first movie.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But then, so help me remember. So his character is just a part of the army, kills Lucius because he's on the other side, because he escaped from Rome and is living and grew up in this village basically and becomes a warrior. Just why not?
Just goes.
and then he gets taken away. Okay, so they lose the fight, right? Rome wins the fight at the beginning, and he gets just taken prisoner, right?
Right.
And then he gets brought to Rome.
Yep.
And enslaved as a
gladiator.
Yeah. And then we learn that Pedro Pascal's character is married to his mom.
Yep. So then that complicates things.
And then what else? How does it go after?
Yeah, so then you learn that there's a plot for them to overthrow. They're trying to overthrow the emperors.
Right. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That felt so out of place and so random to me.
So this guy that we're supposed to hate because he killed the main character's wife, all of a sudden we're cheering for him.
Yeah. Because he's like starting like a rebel army. Yeah. But that doesn't work out.
No, obviously not.
And then then the emperors are like mad at him and his wife, and Lucius's mom. So they pit Pedro Pascal and Lucius against each other.
Yep.
Which was okay. And then that's when he realizes, because he's like, oh, I knew your father, Maximus, and I respected him. He was like a part of his army or whatever, right? Is that what it is?
Yep.
That's okay. I didn't hate that.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that. But it felt weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
I think the problem is like this whole movie, it's like all about the side characters, right? And our main character, whole movie kind of felt like he was kind of on the side of everything. He wasn't really doing much. He was kind of in prison.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was winning fights, but it's like,
I
don't know. That part was weird.
It wasn't about winning the fights.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first one, that was what his motivation was. He's like, I got to get the people behind me. I got to win these fights and show them that.
Yeah,
it can be different. Unite them, right? Yeah. That was so that that does eventually get to that here, which again felt the same. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That character was kind of weird. I don't know, but I agree that that subplot of them trying to overtake the emperors was like out of nowhere.
Right.
Like I don't even think you needed that. You could still do all the Denzel Washington stuff without that. I think. Yeah. But.
Oh, they're trying to do something different.
I know, and I shouldn't bash it for that because that part was different. And again, I think that's the part I liked the best.
Right,
was that stuff, but it's not the main character's not in that, so it's like it's weird. Okay, what else? So the emperor stuff. So Denzel is like basically
he's trying to become emperor,
and so he gets both of them killed, right?
Yeah. Well, he kills one.
Or he actively kills one. And how did the first one die? I can't remember.
Didn't he like get cut off his head?
That was the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he cuts out the first one's head. And then the other one's the crazy one. And he's got his little monkey, which by the way, I like the monkey.
Yeah.
You should have had the monkey in the whole movie. It comes in at 3/4 of the way in. I'm like, oh, he's got a monkey now. That's weird. Why didn't he have a monkey pet like the whole time?
It's fun that the monkey.
Anyway,
the monkey becomes a politician.
Right. Yes.
Becomes a Roman politician. All right.
So does the second one die, or he's like doesn't have to? He doesn't really want to rule, or does he die?
He dies. Yeah.
How does he die?
In the final scene, right? Or no, actually he died in the Colosseum in the final battle.
Oh,
I can't remember how though.
He gets shot?
Yeah.
Does he?
I was too focused on Denzel at that point.
I'm trying to remember because at one point the Lucius was like trying to shoot an arrow at one of them. But I feel like he miss. I
can't even remember, man.
But at some point Denzel just takes over. I've kind of just felt like he walks into the meeting and he's like tells the emperor like, you can go now, we don't need you, and then he's just like, all right, I'm the head now. Which it was cool.
It was cool.
I liked it. Yeah, I didn't mind that part. Yeah,
he just pulls out the dude's head. Like, all right.
Yeah, that was intense. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Any other spoiler stuff?
I don't know. Is it worth a watch, Adam?
If you really like Gladiator, don't watch this.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Go watch the original.
If you kind of like Gladiator and the main thing you like about Gladiator is the fighting and the violence, okay, you might like this.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And if
Ridley Scott has better movies out there.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem, it seems beneath him. Although he is a director who's kind of in that realm of, like Alien, all the Alien. He's the realm of like fun, action, like not usually as like meaningful. I feel like Gladiator is kind of his most like, as far as I can remember. I don't know.
Yeah.
So of all the like really great directors, he's one that I could give a little bit of a pass for doing something weird and crazy, but it just doesn't work with the first film. So anyway,
go watch Gladiator.
Yeah,
it's the better of the two.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, anything else?
I don't think so.
Should we sign off?
Wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks again. If you stuck around for the whole thing, that's awesome. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.